The idea is to bring this also to the game industry because there's a lot of people can play, including young kids, and it's much harder to card players when they play a game than carding
Yeah,
someone before they enter a casino. So we know it's easier to go around those regulations around age, and if you have loot boxes, um, that is gonna make kids want to buy more, and that's gonna make them spend money more. It's not ethical. But it's not just loot boxes. It's also FOMO, like the use of FOMO. You're not gonna, if you don't play or if you don't buy the season pass, you're gonna miss out on this amazing reward, amazing skin that you're not gonna get ever again. It's putting a lot of psychological pressure to kids. Again, adults can fall for it, but we protect kids.
My name is Mario, the person behind the throne. My name is Mario, the person behind the throne.
welcome everyone. Today I'm particularly happy. We're recording on the 2nd of January, so right after the eating. In Italy, we eat a lot of panettone, pandora, and even though I don't live in Italy and I was not in Italy, I have eaten a lot of that, so a lot of training probably in the next few days, the guild training. So, and I'm super excited because I start 2025 with fireworks. Not yesterday, but today with Celia Hodent. Welcome, Celia.
Woohoo! Thank you so much, Pietro, for having me, and Happy New Year to everyone. And I hope it's going to be a good year. Fingers crossed.
Okay.
But yeah,
Yes.
I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Oh wow, it's been it's something that I really wanted to do a lot earlier because I would really I'm a fan of the work that you've done and you keep doing, and I really wanted to have you on, and also because like the I don't know, like the core of this podcast is about the guest and discover these people and understanding who's beyond the professional, who's beyond the pro, like the person behind the pro. That's the subtitle of my show, and that's and about you, people like you, like Kate. Also, I know that you know Kate Edwards very well. People like you, like Kate, and just trying to understand. Okay, but who are these fantastic people? Like, if they do so much great work, right, professionally, who the hell are they? It's like what? And so you are definitely like Kate and like many others, but you particularly because you go in many podcasts on TV, like you have your TED talks, you do a lot. And who is Celia? Um, be-
I don't think it's gonna be that revealing, It's like
it's
we're humans. We're just trying to do our things.
great people do great work. So reverse engineer that great work is done by great people.
Okay, there's a lot
No,
of luck also happening in here, but yeah.
didn't convince you. Okay, I get it. Um, let's see what Mr. AI has to say. Actually,
Ooh,
Brian, the voice is Brian. Brian
Brian,
created this. Like
Brian the
Brian,
AI. All right.
let's see what Brian has to say about you. Volume max. 3, 2, 1, go.
Celia Hodent is a cognitive scientist, UX expert, and ethical design advocate whose career bridges the worlds of psychology, user experience, and video game development. With a PhD in psychology from the University of Paris 5 Sorbonne, specializing in cognitive development, Celia has dedicated her career to understanding the performance, limitations, and biases of the human brain. Her fascination with how people think, learn, and interact has shaped her journey as a trailblazer in the gaming industry. Celia's passion for gaming began early, eventually leading her to leave academic research and dive into the gaming industry in 2005. Starting at VTech, a toy and educational game manufacturer, she soon joined Ubisoft's Strategic Innovation Lab, where she explored how cognitive science could enhance player experiences. Her contributions spanned Ubisoft franchises such as Rainbow Six, Assassin's Creed, and Far Cry. Later, her role at LucasArts allowed her to work on the Star Wars series, though several projects were cut short when the studio closed. From 2013 to 2017, Celia served as Director of User Experience at Epic Games, where she established UX strategies and practices for projects like Fortnite, Unreal Engine 4, and Paragon. Her efforts shaped one of the industry's most successful games while advancing UX methodologies across the company. Celia's work extends beyond the studio. She chairs the GDC UX Summit and is a passionate advocate for ethical games, having co-founded the Ethical Games Initiative to ensure developers prioritize user well-being over purely business goals. Her books, The Gamer's Brain and the Psychology of Video Games, provide accessible insights into how cognitive science can create better, more meaningful gaming experiences. Celia's commitment to education and inclusivity drives her mission to make gaming accessible, engaging, and respectful of diverse audiences. Through her personal website, she continues to share her knowledge and inspire a new generation of game designers and developers to approach their work with a human-first mindset.
Wow. I feel so important right now.
Yeah, you should feel important. Like I see, like
A lot of
your
people do a lot of things. That's the thing.
yeah.
And so many people do great work and not, in the limelight. They keep it quiet and they keep moving. So there's a lot of things that I do thanks to all these people working, tirelessly day in, day out, and don't necessarily have, the platform to put forward their work. It's
Yeah,
important. It's important.
no,
There's so many people like
of course, like
they're like,
we're
"Oh, I'm important. I did this and did that." But there's so many people who do a lot of shit, and they don't necessarily talk about it.
so let's say
All
you
I'm saying is what
represent
I'm saying.
let's say you represent all those people for today, like, and
That's
you
very presumptuous, but
at least you carry on their work and
okay.
like it should be great. I mean, I agree with you. There is like so many, the face of a great work sometimes is not just like, it's not the only person. Maybe there are like hundreds of people behind it. But like today, at least for today, we need to focus. I need to focus on
Okay,
you.
okay, okay.
I'm really, really curious because like you're so also problem number one I had well just trying to work with you in this podcast, that there was like so much that AI gathered for me. It was hard to put it into like a. So I think the first bio that I got of you was like 2 minutes and 49 seconds, which is
Oh my
super
god.
super long. Super long. Normally, I try to stick to one between 1 minute and two. Yours to 250, and to remove things it took a while. But anyway, I think I got to a good level of trying to say a little bit of what's the most important thing about you. What I'm still missing is about who Celia. Who are you? What are the things that you like? The sports or the people that you like, or what drives you? What makes you wake up in the morning and go on and say it's gonna be a good day?
Okay, like pick one because I do have to answer to all of them. Okay,
No,
my
tell me something about you and what you like and who you are.
okay, okay,
Whatever.
okay. I love nature. I love walking in nature. That's why I love traveling and explore things. And so if I have a day off and it's shiny outside, what is gonna get me out of bed is to be able to go on a hike, or go explore something and maybe see some animals and meet people also where they are. I love discovering different cultures. So I feel bad sometimes because I travel a lot and that's really not good in terms of my carbon footprint. But when I travel, I try to stay long enough in the places and connect with the people and do as much as I can instead of hopping in and out. Um, so that's my way of feeling a bit better about it. But this is what I love. Understand things. I love learning. That okay, let's say that I love learning, discovering, learning, exploring. This is really something across everything, across video games, across science, and traveling. This is really what matters the most, I would say, in a way.
Okay. Well, that's an important thing. I'm glad that you got there. That's something that I share. I even have it tattooed in multiple places
Really.
of my body. Yeah. Well, here, like this is I don't know if you can
I
see it
can't
to
I
the
can't read
camera.
it. I can't read it.
I'm gonna make an effort. It says navigare necesse est. Even fell like this. Navigare necesse is
Navigare
a.
necessitas. Okay.
Yes, like the whole is from Plutarch, right? And the whole idea is navigare necesse est,
Yeah.
vivere non necesse.
Mhm.
So like it's like life to live, not life, but to
Yep.
live is not as important as to sail, as to discovering,
Yep.
as to try new things, try new food, try like learn, study, understand, improve yourself. Also, is also like a reflection on improving yourself, and also have like
which
a
is
part
really
of
hard.
it's
Because
hard, but
we're biased, and it's really difficult to take a step back and try to see perspective, have a different perspective to see things in a different way, and not through your own perspective. And yeah, have to you try to see where you fail, where you could hurt others, where you did a shitty job. It's not easy, but it's important to try at least.
but your life, well, what you've done, and knowing that that discovering and learning drives your life, it's also very interesting. And is there like one, I guess if I had to guess about you, I think
Mhm.
one topic that drives you
Yeah.
is like diversity, inclusion, video games, and how they can include that, or am I wrong?
Yeah, I would say striving for equality and equity and justice is always something that was important. Make sure that everyone has their fair share and that everyone's contribution is recognized. It's something important because injustices are everywhere, and it takes every one of us to go beyond that and make it better. So yeah, so that I think this is important, and I care about the truth. So I care about well, truth is a big word, but I care about science and try to understand things the way they are and not the way they look like. Is also very important.
Yeah, and the idea of fairness and fairness to everyone, that which actually goes into this the whole idea of inclusivity. um it's something that it's a big topic for us in the video game industry, right? It's a super big topic. There are the ones that they push for it a lot. There are the ones that actually they're not very, like I realized recently that, not once again, like what my friend was saying before, not really everyone is on the same page. um
Yeah, there's some people who doubt that there is injustice, and sometimes they feel that they are attacked on their ground. They say, "Yeah, but what about my work? I worked hard as well," and they feel that we're trying to. Some people are trying to take something out of them, or but they don't realize that some people are just have more barriers. And yes, I'm sure, like for some people who are like let's say the white cisgender males, because this is the people
yeah,
we're talking about in the game industry in the West, who are the majority. Yeah, a lot of them have worked hard, not necessarily like come from a rich family. They
yeah,
sometimes were poor, and they had to work hard. The idea is not to deny this. The idea is to highlight that other people have been working hard and also have more barriers. Sometimes I remember a discussion that I had. I'm not going to say who it was, but a white guy who was poor, like he came out poor, and said, "Yeah, but I started my company. I had no money, and so my aunt or my mom, or I don't know who it was in his family, and like put a loan. I took a loan so I could start it." I'm like, yeah, okay, this is it. Like, it means that someone in your family could loan you money, like in a way that, yeah, it was dangerous, and they took a lot of risks. That's not to be able to allow you to do that. But you have people who don't even have that, and this is what we mean. We mean that we have many more barriers for a lot of people, and they work hard. And for these people, they need to work twice or three times or four times harder than others. And this is all what we're saying. Yes, you worked hard and you took risks, but you have other people who work hard and take risks and even more than you did, who didn't have the luck that you had, and that little spark that you need. And that's the reason why I said at the beginning, luck is really important. Yes, I worked hard. I'm not going to deny that I did not work hard, but some people work much harder than I do, and you don't hear about them. I'm lucky enough to be in grew up in Paris, and a lot of people like French. I don't know why. They like the accents, and so in America, it was popular to listen to me because I have a slight French accent. All these things. This is luck. This is because I was grown somewhere. I went to bilingual school early. That was quite expensive, even though my parents were not rich. They put me in an
Yeah.
expensive school where I could learn English very early. All of this is luck. I didn't have to do anything to have this. And so we need to recognize the luck that we had and not deny the work that everyone is doing, but just to understand how all these things work and accept that a lot of things is just luck. Me working on
Mhm.
1313 and the way it ended, it was dramatic, but it was also lucky because a lot of people were devastated by this news, and this made the only super viral post that I did on Twitter, the old Twitter,
Yeah.
was about 1313. And so all of this is because of circumstances. Yes, I worked hard to be where I am. There's a lot of things that happen in life. It's just like the people you meet, the languages that you speak, the city where you were born. It's all of that. The the opportunities that you can have because in your family you have like some money or more money a little bit than others. Like being in France and not having to pay anything for my PhD. And when I arrived in the US and I saw all these people who could not get any education, or see my colleagues like in their 30s talking about how they still have to pay for their
Hey.
student loans. It's like I had a PG, I didn't have to pay any student loan. Like I think I was paying 135 euros a year, but that was including healthcare. So when I say that to American people, it blows their mind. That was very lucky. I mean, that's why a lot of people get defensive, because they think that's not recognizing their hard work and it's dismissing them, but it's not what's happening. It's just realizing that there are barriers, and some people have many more barriers than others, and we just need to break them down, because some of those barriers are in not a just way favoring some people more than others, and not necessarily on merit,
Hmm.
just on luck, things that the color of your skin or your gender. So
And do you think that, like, as a game community or the video game community, um, do we have a role in this? Is this something we can do?
yeah, we all have a role in this, by spoken. You can speak out. That's the first thing that you can do. Being an ally, as you were saying, is really important. And not necessarily being an ally, but saying I'm an ally, I'm an ally, and
Yeah.
just like walk the talk, and try to help people who don't have all the resources. One of the things that we know from inclusivity research, is that the marginalized populations don't have uh, entries. They don't, necessarily have a seat at the table. They don't know the people at sea level. They don't necessarily have a drink with them, or have a drink with the
Mm.
people who have drinks with them. And so there's a lot of like networking access and access to information, like insiders information that they don't get. And so by building communities, and bridging those communities, and trying to do that, can help, and also access to jobs, making sure that they have the tools that they need, and like they understand what's important when you gonna get hired. Like all this information we can give to everyone, make sure that like access to information is equal and fair, and access to networking. That's one of the easy and simplest thing that we can do.
So
I would say.
sometimes I thought already about that in the past. It's like it would be great if one of the big companies were able to make a game, an entire game about that, about same opportunities, or at least showing the differences that there are between certain classes and the struggles, like making, of course I imagine I can understand how hard it could be
Yeah.
to make something still appealing from a
Yeah.
gaming point of view. But that would be
Yeah.
great. Imagine like a guy that is in a certain part of town, and it's a little bit harder for him because like the school that he chooses and the people that are around him, and his mother not being able to give him like the PlayStation 5 or 6 when a Christmas comes. I don't know. And then the type of
Mhm.
games that he plays outside, and then the type of school that he can, I don't know, something like that, right? That would be awesome.
Yeah, what would be awesome as well is a game that highlights that the way the world is made is designed by some people, and those people
Yeah.
have made certain decisions that are favoring people who look like them and hindering others. And that's the thing that people don't necessarily understand. um, the reason why some people have less access to many things is it's not because of natural occurrences. It's because things were designed by a certain part of the population who didn't necessarily think wanted to have any
Yeah.
malice in there,
Yeah.
but they just went they look things through their own perspective and didn't necessarily realize that it was hindering other people. I love the book Invisible Women. It's explaining how certain things are designed and were designed by men, and it happened to let down a lot of women. We can take a very simple example in this book is about restrooms. There's always a big line in the women's restrooms. But because a lot of those restrooms are just designed to give the same space for men and women. And if you think, oh, let's be equal, gonna have the same square meter for women's bathroom and men's bathroom. But if you look, if when you're a woman and you know and you understand what's going on in women's bathroom, we don't have urinals like you do. It's we need to have like closed bathroom, so you can have many more people in the men's bathroom be able to pee than for women's bathroom. And also women are have a tendency to live older, so we have more old people need to go to the bathroom. Also, we have more urinary tract infections in women than we have in men. Women have their periods, so they need to go to the restroom more often. We also have clothes that are designed to be harder to pull down if we need to pee than for men, and so all of that is making it longer for us when we go to the bathroom, and a lot of women have to go to the bathroom more often. And so, in the end of the day, if you design the bathroom to just have equal square footage, it's not going to be the equity is not going to be there. We need to think about the usage. That's why user experience is very important of the people who are going to use the space. So that if you really want to make equitable, you have to think through everything and the different situations of the different populations to make it equal.
And in this world that is so polarized, everything is polarized. Everything. Sometimes I feel that it's just not understandable. Like I can't understand why it's hard for me to find people that are not like, like in general, if you are on the right, you are on the right and you embrace all of the topic of the right. You are on the left, you embrace all of. It's hard for me to find people like me, for example. They are on one side or another, but
Mhm.
also disagree on certain things, and they like more just people that have like, and so in this world that is so polarized, like a conversation like the one we were having, especially about this beautiful book and this beautiful example that you made, which is perfect, top notch. And this is the type of things that I wish more men would read. This is the type of books that men should read, not women, because women know it. It's like we need to know it, because like whenever I talk to my Italian friends here, Italian community here, I see that there is always this kind of resentment, or but come on, it's not like that, it's not the patriarchy. They don't understand what patriarchy means.
Yeah.
They always relate it to the old style of like the, as we said in Italian, padre padrona, the patron father. So the the king father that's you do this and you do that, woman, you can't, you're not allowed to do that, you can't meet that guy until you are 19, something like that. And it's not that anymore.
Yeah.
We're talking about the whole society. I try to talk about this, but I will always find a big wall of concrete in front
Mhm.
of me. I try to say, like, it's not about that, it's the way we even think about certain things. And they don't want to hear it. They just like, we don't want to hear it. And I wish that such books were read by men, just at least to just put it in your head, at least to
Yeah.
understand it about how and what we mean when we talk about patriarchy, or like maybe the modern patriarchy. It's like modern patriarchy, it resides on the shoulders of the older ones,
Yeah.
right? And things are just done in a certain way because it's like that. The way the women even behave, like related to the relationships, it's like is also part of the way we've always understood relationships between men and women.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
everything comes from that. We should understand it more, but it's very hard
It,
to strike
it is
with men.
hard, and it's also, I am a scientist, so it has to be nuanced, and we need. I mean, it takes a while to understand really what's going on. Um, but we have to move forward, and we have to recognize that things can be different. And if there's a lot of studies like showing that young girls, like very early, even young boys, like they have in their what's the term, in their mental model, uh, that girls are going to be bad at math. And if you start, and it comes, it's around 6 years old, it's already like a mental model that girls are not good at math. And this is going to be something that's going to stick to you. How much is this going to influence girls and boys and their choices in life is difficult to measure. But it does have an influence, and we need to realize that all the boys and girls, they need role models for what they can do, and not based on their gender or the color of their skin. And this is still not done today. And so we need to work harder to make sure this is going to happen. It's not going to happen overnight, because it's even if one family inside a family, um, you don't have any sort of discrimination like this, you still have society, you still have advertisement, you still have what happens at school. And so it takes a while to go over this, but we still need to realize that it's happening, and it's bound to happen, because humans are very social species. And so, yeah, society and how it works, this is going to happen, and this is going to be a long, long run. And sometimes, it can be really annoying and obnoxious. And so
Yeah.
people are, come on already, like, can you open your eyes? But the problem is that we have another big issue in humans called cognitive dissonance. And this is where you very
Can you
much
repeat that word?
cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance
Cognitive
is
dissonance.
the state of the mind when there are two conflicting ideas happening. Like, for example, you say, "Oh, I'm very generous. I care about the people who are poor," and maybe you're just seeing someone in the street who is asking for money, and you didn't give money to that person at the moment, and you're gonna. So these are two conflicting views of the world. Like, you're saying that you're generous and you want to help the poor, and here you were, like, you did not help that person who was poor. And you say, yeah, but I don't have, I'm cold, I don't want to get any money, and that person look dangerous. And we're gonna have to find, and I can't give to everyone. You're gonna find ways to explain our own behavior so that we can reestablish the balance in our minds. Cognitive dissonance is really important to understand and to see in others, but to see in ourselves.
Hmm.
It's really important to keep moving. Like, it's the thing that when you worked hard to do something and you failed, we need that cognitive dissonance to move forward. So when you say, "Well, I failed because," uh, or "I didn't get the job because those people were, shitty," or whatever. So we need that cognitive dissonance to be able to keep going, because otherwise, if we do not protect our ego, we don't do anything anymore, and we say, "Oh, I'm going to
Yeah.
fail everything, and I'm not going to do it again." So it's important. The cognitive dissonance is really important to be able to keep going. But that same cognitive dissonance is also hindering our ability to be able to understand our own contribution to the problems in the world, accepting it, and as you say, change, and try to be the change that you want to see in the world, as I'm quoting here. So that's the thing that is difficult to get beyond that.
Absolutely.
But it's also important to recognize cognitive dissonance in others, because if we are too polarized and not trying
Yeah.
to get into nuance and understand why certain people who don't want to see the change that happened, like you were saying, well, people don't understand that patriarchy is still a thing. If we try to combat this by "you're dumb," this is still happening, and if you don't do anything, you're part of the problem. Yes, it's can be reassuring for us to be able to spit that out, but the people you're talking to are gonna feel that kind of distance, and they are gonna reject it all and stay even deeper in their positions. And this is where
Hmm.
that's why social media is really not a good place to advance those topics, because everyone is gonna name names and be shitty to each other. And so because of the kind of distance, we're gonna move away from each other, and not listen to
Yeah,
the
and
others.
and anyway that no one wants to listen to the to something that is not according to what they thought it was fair. Simple example, relating perfectly to what you were saying, right? Like when pay gap, sorry, pay gap, right? So it, wherever you listen to, everyone's right. I learned this thing, everyone's right, but like, because like I agree also that the way to calculate the gender pay gap, it's like it could be done much better. Too many things that just left to everything is put in the same pot, stirred, and then say, oh, 20% off. So they could be done like better. And but then there are people like, let's say, let me tell you, and Jordan Peterson. I'm sure you're familiar with Jordan Peterson's views and stuff. And then he said, yeah, but I'm gonna try to make like, and then it's like, yeah, but of course, like you need to also to consider what women, what type of university, what type of faculties they women they choose. Men they choose more go for higher paid jobs, and women they go for like lower paid jobs because they go for more humanistic choices. And it's like, but there is where he should stop. That's where we should also think, because like it's like, okay, fair, it's a good point, it's not wrong, the point is not wrong, the point is like, go one step further and ask yourself why.
Yeah.
Because women are more relatable, or they have this like type of like, they have feeling stronger here and there. Sure, but it's not only because of that. Maybe there is a percentage, maybe it's a component that, but it's not a defining trait that leads women to go for humanistic things. It's also because the world we build, and the way we see a family starts with the nucleus, the smallest nucleus, that the way we see a family, and that, the reflection in society, what women try. Of course women try to go where other women goes, and it's a society that's built for women to choose that type of university, that
Yeah.
type of jobs, right? It's not because women just want it or they're stupid in math, because
Or
I
yeah,
am,
or
I
maybe
mean,
they didn't get that job and very important society company, and they got the job
yes, yes,
in
yes.
the other side, and so you go where you need the money, so you go where you can earn some money. Yeah, it's very complex, but we need to compare apple to apple, and that's where science is really
Hmm.
important. If you look at the salaries of, for example, the CEOs, or how many CEOs there is, like, women definitely,
Yeah.
they don't earn as much as men, and some people are gonna say, yeah, but no, there's no gender gap anymore. Like, now women have equal access. So, well, how many women presidents do you know? How many women CEOs do you know? And then those people are gonna say, yeah, but they don't want to go there. They want to build a family. No, not necessarily. But some women are always going to be pressured. I in my career, I was always pressured about, oh, you don't have kids, and this is not something that you hear. Like, men will not have to have this conversation over and over again if they're in their 30s or in early 40s and still don't have kids and have a career. I mean, maybe it happens every now and then, but we do not. You don't. Men don't have to spend any mental load or discussion or time speaking
Zero.
about this.
Zero.
Women, like, I had to have this conversation many times, and personally, I don't care, I don't give a shit, because also I have a personality. It can just like fuck you if you don't, if this is something that bothers you, I don't care. But it's just the sheer amount of time that it happens, and you have to answer to these people. It's just, at the very least, it makes you like waste time and then energy to have to explain certain things. So it's complicated, and we know that you so there have been some studies that have been shown in Harvard Business Review, where if during a recruitment process, let's say, like, they compare a man and a woman with equal resume, equal skills,
Mm.
and equal results to a test. So let's say, like, your company
Okay.
is putting up a test during their recruitment process, and the last two people is a one man and one woman. If during the test, both the man and the woman make one mistake, a lot of times companies are going to say for the men that, well, yeah, it was off. He told us that he had a bad night or whatever. So yeah, it didn't answer correctly in that test, in that part of
Okay.
the test, but it's okay. If it's the woman, there's much more, and this is really interesting because this is another kind of bias that we have. And where do we attribute the cause of something? When it's women, the cause is going to be internal to her. Like, well, she didn't completely, like, she didn't have 100% of the test, so I mean, her competence is not 100%. But when it's going to be the men, in many cases, the cause is going to be attributed to external causes.
Okay.
So they had a bad night, or it was on, under pressure. And so this is where we end up hiring more men than women. And we're going to say, well, we had a very serious process, and we just hired the best, and it happened to be men. But when you look into it and how people justify their choice, this is when you scratch, beneath the surface.
Yeah.
This is where we find out all those biases that
Yeah.
led people to hire more men than women, or hire people who look like them because we have the ingrid bias, and we don't realize that we're doing it. Again, this is in most cases, like, some people do fully realize what they're doing,
Mm.
but in most cases, it's implicit. That's why we call this implicit bias. And if we don't redesign the environment so that the recruitment process can go around these biases, just like we have a very specific process in science to go around our biases to try to find the truth or what's happening really, we're not going to get better. And by pointing out to people, well, you were biased, you hired the men rather than the women because you're biased, that person, because of cognitive dissonance, is going to reject it. It's going to, no, you're wrong, I just hired the best person, you're lunatic, and blah blah blah. And so that's why it's really difficult to go beyond these problems.
Okay. Yeah. Like, is this the book? Like,
Invisible
yeah.
Women, yeah.
It's called Invisible Women. So Invisible Women.
It's, I think
I just like made by
Celia Perez, the last name. I think first name
It's
is Carolyn, maybe.
Caroline Criado Perez. So
Yes.
Caroline Criado Perez. So I think she's like either South American or Spanish.
I think she's
Um,
British. she,
she's British. Ah, it's like Criado Perez. Sounds like
yeah,
very.
that's their origins, but I think she's British.
She has an invisible surname
I
then.
don't know. I don't know actually. So, but her
Well,
book
that's
was written in English.
I'm buying it. I'm buying it for myself. Whoever is interested, it goes like from 10 to 20 euros. Like, just buy it. It's I myself are gonna buy it today.
Yeah, I
I'm
have
gonna
a
start
lot of
reading it
books.
next
If
week.
you're interested in that topic, on my
Yeah.
website, on the resources page, this book is in there, and I have other books that are also really
All
interesting.
right. Okay, I'm gonna check it in on your website. That I went through it like
It's
very
easy.
carefully in the past few days. Super interesting. Let's switch into a little bit of games and the whole topic
Yeah.
that is, so I wrote something here where I just to summarize, for me the most important topic is about ethical gaming. So of course, being in the video game industry for so long myself, you as well, it's a very dear topic to me. I have questions, but many questions, but I think I will summarize it in one. But let so I basically my what I understood from your work, that's that your views on ethical gaming. So you have, there are as critical and often overlooked aspect of game design, rooted in the idea that developers have a responsibility to prioritize well-being of players over purely profit-driven motives, right? And your perspective is shaped by your background in cognitive science and your deep understanding of how games impact players emotionally and even socially, we can
Mhm.
say. I don't know if that summarize it. It's just a summary that I made. And so there are so many questions, but going through also your books, I would really wouldn't know. So like the question I have for you, I will just make one. Let's see where we go with that. And it's like, how easy is to do the work that you're doing, to continue doing the work that you're doing? How is this really, so people are in awe with you, they listen to what you say, they read what you have to say. How much do they implement it in their games? How easy is to do this in games, where in the world where now money is everything, even
Yeah.
more now after COVID, so everyone's trying to save. So profitability is even more important than before. Where do we
Always
stand?
been.
What's your, please tell me something, because it's,
Yeah.
it's this is a topic that I discuss with people in general. Can we do more ethical games? And people are ready to do that, or they just
Yeah.
talk the talk.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so it can be difficult, and some things are easier than others. It depends on the population as well. It's a very easy topic to talk about for people who care about video games and about players, because they want to keep saying and keep seeing that games are treated as an art form. And it's hard to have this position if you see in the public discourse that people are saying that games are just a money making kind of thing.
Hmm.
So it's easy for this population, like indie developers, small studios. They care about it. Definitely, they need to make money, and it's hard to make money. So I'm not saying the solutions are easy, but they can do it in with respect of their player base. It's also easy with certain executives when there are regulations that are put in place. For example, Belgium banned loot boxes, and it's spreading in Europe. So we can think that maybe in a few years, loot boxes might be banned entirely in Europe. It's a possibility. So once we're there, then studios are going to have to think about, okay, how we can earn money without using loot boxes. Now the science is can help us here, because I don't want to work with moral panics, because there's a lot of moral panics around games, and this is also the reason why it can be difficult to talk about these topics, because you have the moral discourse around games are isolating people, making players violent, and blah blah blah. And this is not true. We have decades of research showing that no games, we really cannot connect violent games to violent behavior in the real world. And no games is not necessarily isolating people. There's actually, most people play games with their friends or with the community online. So there's a lot of science that is disproving this discourse. But the problem when this discourse is happening again and again, and every time there's a horror happening, you would have someone like someone from the government, someone like, even in France, like President Macron, like was Uh, Last year, I think, a couple years ago, when there was a terrorist attack or something, or I don't even remember the context, but he blamed video games, and you're like, how can we still have this discourse today, and even like uh, said again and again by people from the government, and then have a nuanced discourse with the video game industry. So the C level, the executive level in the game industry is going to say, well, we're not going to listen to any of that because a lot of it is nonsense. So why are we going to listen also to loot boxes and stuff like that? So we need a nuanced discourse. And science has proven that loot boxes are problematic for young people, and because they have a hard time stopping buying the loot boxes because it's variable rewards and blah blah blah. So once we have identified some issues and there's regulation happening around those issues, then it's an easier discussion to have. But it's really difficult to have those discussions about the use of FOMO and the use of dark patterns before we can have regulations around it, and there's like a money interest for investors, or for shareholders, or for all the executive level. So it's difficult in that way. Not not some people are not going to care if it's not bring money, or it's worse, it could remove some benefits because we're not going to use some dark patterns or unethical trickeries to earn money in games.
Hmm.
It's both easy with some population that people care, and it's difficult because we don't know everything, and it has to be nuanced and not based on moral panic, and because if we don't have this money um, enforcing function,
Yeah.
it can be really difficult to approach this with certain people.
Wow. It sounds it sounds like a little bit of a vicious cycle. And do you think that how do you think the future looks like for this topic? Is that too
Uh,
much? Is too big of a
so
ask?
I'm just gonna say, like, having Donald Trump as president again is not gonna help, because he's the deregulation guy. And so I was hopeful, because of the FTC, for example. They are so the
Yeah.
Federal Trade Commission in the US. We're cracking down on practices like dark patterns. Especially, there was a very uh, unprecedented fine on Epic Games, um, $500 million, and half of this fine was because of the use of dark patterns, um,
Yeah.
especially directed to kids. So there I was hopeful, because if regulators are looking into it, and we can bring the science to it, and really pinpoint where's problematic, because yes, of course, video game, it's an industry. We need profitability. Making video games is very long. It takes a lot of money. So we understand all that, and we're not saying, hey, you just need to move to charity, and making a game is
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
doing charity. It's not what we're saying. We're just saying that there are some practices, especially to vulnerable populations and children. We protect children in our society, and so we need to pinpoint those issues, and this is where the scientific community can help us. And that's why when I started Ethical Games, I started by looking into the science, and we did a conference. And it was just like the scholars that were showing the results, because it has to be evidence based. But if those regulators have less power, it cannot really protect people, and it's only money that is talking, which is pretty much what seems to going to be the case with the Trump
Yeah.
presidency. It's gonna be harder. So I don't know. I know that there are stronger regulations now, and there are regulations that are coming up in the near future,
Mm.
that is making this conversation easier to have, especially around monetization. Not necessarily around inclusion, sadly, but in some elements around ethical games, we can move forward, like loot boxes or FOMO and certain practices using dark patterns. I think we can have a decent conversation today because of already existing regulations in some countries, especially in Europe, and upcoming regulations. So that discussion is going to make be made easier, but in the future, who knows what's going to happen if we decide that no more regulation is just hey money and this is like free for all and the richest people win. This is not this is not going to be very
That is bad. That is bad for everything, right?
well,
Not only
like
for
for all the
games.
people who are not billionaires, which makes like most of us. But
Exactly.
we'll see if the institutions can hold. um I'm not super hopeful, to be honest with you, but there's always hope, and we can turn this thing around if again, if we are not polarized with each other, we stay nuanced, we try to reach out to people who disagree with us. I know how hard it is, and
Mm,
it's not for the people who are discriminated against to do that work. It's for the others, and some people need to rest and unplug every now and then. It's really important for them to be able to do that because your mental health is important. But we need to stick together and try to move forward together, and try to find ways to have wins. And sometimes I prefer a small win rather than no win at all. And that's I know that it's really difficult to make concessions to only have one little thing. But the problem is, if you look back at what happened in the world, it takes a while for everything to happen. Look at civil
mm,
rights in the U.S. It's just like crazy long.
yes.
And hopefully we can move away from this model and do things faster and stop all inequalities. But sadly, there's still a lot of people with a lot of power and money that are not helping,
Mm,
and helping polarization through platforms like Twitter. And so the discussion and the discourse gets muddled and polarized, as you were saying, and so it makes it harder to make people understand things, and just like, okay, you see this, but let's look at the facts, and okay, what can we do so that you can still earn money or not? Okay,
mm,
we'll still earn money, calm down,
right,
but we
right.
can make things better. Let's do it. Like, we can have both.
Yes.
So yeah, it's difficult.
It's
But it's
it's
moving
like
forward.
bleak.
Everything's moving forward. uh yeah. But there's today threats are really great. We have
Mm.
fascism raising, like, there's a lot of problems happening. Democracy is weakening, and so a lot of these things are really really difficult. All that shit happening, but we need to stay strong, and we need to connect and help each other out. And
There's gonna be a growing need for all the Celia Hodent in the world. So this is a call for
there's a
all the
growing need for those people who don't make waves and do the shit and do the work, in the shadows. And there's a growing need
yes,
to connect
but
uh all of
but
us.
allow me no, not to disagree, but at least to say, well, this world needs spoke people, so spoke individuals, like
Sure.
people that just go out and just say there is a word of 100 people doing the groundwork, doing all the legwork, but we need someone that goes out and say it out loud
Yeah.
to on TV. That's what they don't see on
On
TV.
TV, I still people.
I don't. I still think that TV plays a role.
Yeah, yeah, in
Please,
some way.
TV plays a role not on the gamers, but TV plays a role on those that maybe criticize gaming,
Mm,
don't understand the whole ethical
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
topic.
yeah, but it's
It,
it's
it,
it's
it's
it's really
it,
hard.
it
So I usually accept to go talk, and I did a lot of interviews, and today I'm a bit more cautious. Even if you're like, okay, I'm gonna go talk to this journalist who is against blah blah blah, and you
yeah.
look in the background, and there's two ways of looking into it. Like, if you don't go, then your voice is never heard, and they keep going in their loop. But if you go, especially if it's not live, and most of the time it's not live, they're gonna cut things and make you sound, they find a way to make you say something that was like opposite, or really like all the context and nuances out, and it's actually serving the cause. And it's really hard to talk about these things. But what we should do is, anyone who has a platform, like you have a platform, and people who have platform, like let people who are doing great things, and pushing all this initiative forward, have a voice and try to amplify this voice. We can, anyone who has a platform, we can do that. And for those who don't have a platform yet, um you can still talk about it on social media. And I know it's hard, because it's just like one drop of hope in the ocean of shit. But we can find each other out, um just like the flat earthers found each other and pushed this narrative around. So we can also do it.
Mm.
And
It's
it needs to be fun. So that's the thing. And I was hopeful during the Kamala Harris switch to fun. And it was like, yeah,
ah
this has to be fun, because there's also an image of the people who wants to be inclusive and ethical, all these woke people. They're calling us the woke mind virus. It sounds dangerous. It sounds not fun. We need to be fun. I think it's really important, to just like talk about. I know that's my own position, and not everyone is going to agree, and that's totally okay.
of course.
But from my perspective, we need to talk about really important shit, but in a fun way. Like talking about, hey, you're doing this shit that is favoring certain people than others, but hey, I'm not gonna talk down on you. I'm gonna try to show you how we can make it look better. And look at all this community and those people you're missing out. Not only they're smart and they work hard, but they're so fun. And so you could get a lot of this fun if you include them. So I think I think we need to
Yeah,
we need to
but
do
you're
that.
right. But you're 100% right, because like Ian Regard here is trying to not to make it to make it a political talk. But it is true that the biggest problem with the current walk culture, and that's actually where Trump won, where the anti-walk is winning, because the walk became not fun, in my opinion. It's the
They're making
way
fun
it
of it.
is, the way it's portrayed, the way it's told. It's almost, that's why they're opposers to that. They call it almost like a cancel culture.
Yeah.
They call it they call it censorship. They call it, they don't want us to say anything anymore, and they are right in a way, because the way we made it, we made it understood, it sounds like that. And in a way, that's
Yeah,
also why it's not.
yeah, and to be clear, there we have good reasons, and like some people are good have good reason to be pissed.
Of
And
course.
I'm not disqualifying any of that. But yeah, I mean, a lot of it's really hard to have a clear understanding of how we can win things. But all the non-violent protests in the U.S. for civil rights, and the LGBTQ community, for their rights, was, I think, was an easier way to talk about it. And I'm saying this with my 2025 now perspective. And of course, back then, I'm sure, and I wasn't there. I'm sure it was much harder. Um, but it's for some. I have discussions. I try to have discussions with people who are very conservative, and they say shit that, yeah, but they want to take stuff from us. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's not because
Hmm.
uh, the marginalized people are gonna get equal rights that is gonna take something from you, and they feel that it's taking stuff from them.
That's
And
cognitive bias.
yeah,
That's it.
and there's some are bad arguments, and some is just like lost causes. But I think there's a part of those people gonna vote for Trump in the US, or for Marine Le Pen in France, or who knows. I think that we can still flip some people if we make them understand that, yeah, we just want you to accept marginalized people. And you know what? Marginalized people accept you the way you are, but they don't feel that way. And this narrative is taken and repeated and washed out again and again by conservatives.
Fantastic, Dirk, talking to you. Really, like I say, like, I will go on with you. Actually, I have a couple of questions still. I still like time is running short, so I have still a couple of questions. But you're I still wanted to hear something, give you a chance to talk a little bit about ethical games, your ethical game initiative.
Yep.
Because you co-founded Ethical Game Initiative. It's a collaborative effort with academics and developers to promote responsible game design practices. And here, like three, but you aim to provide developers with tools and guidelines to 3 points. Right? This is what I took out of that. You tell me if it's wrong. Identify potential ethical dilemmas in their projects. 2, make informed decisions that prioritize user well-being. 3, advocate for long-term trust and loyalty for players, which ultimately benefits both players and business.
Yeah. Like, I'm going to take a simple example. We know that the studies that are done internally show that if people are harassed on in the games they play, they are more likely to churn. So they're likely to quit the game and not play anymore. And so it's important to make sure that players are not going to get harassed, have toxic speech, so that we call what we call disruptive behavior. And so that's an easy way to say, well, it's if you make sure players are protected and they are not harassed and they feel safe, it's also good for business because they're not going to leave the game because of that. So the idea is not to, it's also to highlight that it's going to benefit everyone. But also we need to realize we need to do the right things just to do the right things. And that's an example with loot boxes. So we know like loot boxes because they use variable rewards, and we know since behavioral psychology research back in the 50s and 60s, we know that they are more likely to encourage the behavior. So it's gambling, and we know that it's harder to stop, and some people are more vulnerable than others, especially kids. That's why gambling is not allowed. You cannot go to a casino until you're 18. And so this is how we protect the kids, and we consider that adults, well, we know the risk, but adults, for example, can decide to be banned from casinos. They can register themselves on a file so that they are not allowed to get in a casino if they know they are vulnerable to this. The idea is to bring this also to the game industry, because there's a lot of people can play, including young kids, and it's harder. It's much harder to card players when they play a game than carding someone before they enter a casino. So we know it's easier to go around those regulations around age. And if you have loot boxes, that is gonna make kids want to buy more, and that's gonna make them spend money more. It's not ethical. But it's not just loot boxes. It's also FOMO, like the use of FOMO. You're not gonna, if you don't play or if you don't buy the season pass, you're gonna miss out on this amazing reward, amazing skin that you're not gonna get ever again. It's putting a lot of psychological pressure to kids. Again, adults can fall for it, but we protect kids more in our society, and for them it's going to be really hard. Like anyone who has a kid, a child, or saw a child throwing a tantrum because they had to stop playing or had to like not get the ice cream at a time that they should have normal dinner, we know that it's hard. Like kids can have easily a meltdown because they're not fully matured. Like their prefrontal cortex is not mature yet. It's maturing entirely at 25 years.
25, yeah.
And so it's harder for younger adults and kids to manage their emotion. And so if we use tactics to put pressure, psychological pressure on this population to buy a season pass or to come back, and if they don't, they can lose everything. It's unfair to put that much pressure to a vulnerable population. And so that's what we're saying. And we're trying to make sure like people understand that, and we're using science to back it up, so that we can show, hey, this is what is happening to kids. Because I've been discussing I mean, I've been doing that for years. Even before the pandemic, I had discussion with studios who were making games for kids, and I showed them this is what pressure is doing to kids, and they were like, "We had no idea." And like, yeah. And so you need to understand the pressure you're putting on kids. They're not like you. They're not an adult. They cannot really measure pros and cons of doing this, and it's much harder for them. So it's not to say we should also protect adults, and those tactics are not also very ethical on adults, but it's even more important to
Of
understand the
course.
pressures for
Uh,
minors. And so that's the
mm,
idea, and also providing some guidelines, because some of the game developers don't know, but they don't know what to do. And so the idea is to make it clearer and try to see if we can agree on a code of ethics that is evidence based. That's why it's informed by science, and to see how practical it is to apply it. And that's why I'm trying to build that bridge between scholars and the game industry, so that we can try to get somewhere. I don't know if it's going to succeed, but I know that it's moving the topic forward, and at least there's something. But hopefully we can get to a point where we have that code of ethics, that the studios can sign off of it, and then regulators can also get inspired by this to regulate their country. Sometimes regulators are making crazy regulations, like you see in Asia, like kids aren't only allowed like I don't know, 1 hour or 2 hours, and it's not, this is not backed by science, and it's not even considering the good that can provide video games to population, and it's not really informed by science. What I want to make sure is
okay.
it's informed by science, so that we can bring the good, and not fall for moral panics. Win-win.
Do you have children yourself?
Nope.
You don't have children yourself. So let me ask you, in the scenario where in 5 years you have children, and or no, it's actually stupid, because that makes it sound, then you have a push pressure on you. So if you had children,
Yeah.
what would you do as a parent to make sure that they have a healthy gaming life?
Yeah. Okay, so we can turn the question into what recommendation can I give to parents?
That's
See?
to me, that to Pietro, to me.
Yeah, so I'm not a clinical psychologist, but I listen to those people. And what they say is what's really important is to know what your kids are doing and play with them. Not all games are going to be adjusted to the child development stage and emotional development stage, but also every child can be different. So you can use PEGI system or
Mm,
ESRB in the US or North America, sorry, to try to get some recommendation. But at the end of the day, you know your children better than regulators. It's just a way to help you understand what are games
yeah,
like for 18 plus that are probably too violent, but even those who are saying it's good for the age of the children, it's important to look at what's in there. Are there some psychological pressures applied to kids, and get interested into what your kids are doing. There's a lot of parents who tell me, "Oh, my children are playing a lot of too much Fortnite and blah blah," and I ask them,
yeah,
"Oh, what mode are they playing?" And they can't answer this question. um, Playing a lot of creative mode is going to be different than playing battle royale mode, and it's going to be a different psychological pressure on your kids. So make sure you know what they're playing. Play with them if you can. Get interested in what they're doing. um, and also make sure that they're not just playing video games and playing other stuff, but it's going to be a bit easier, again, easier said than done, but it's going to be easier conversation to have with your kids if you
hmm,
understand what they're doing, if you value what they're doing in games, and not saying, "Oh, this is crap, this is bullshit, you're becoming dumb, this is a dumb activity," and just make it an equally interesting activity than playing sports or reading a book. As a parent, you are ultimately the person who knows your kid better, and you can help them. Make sure also you understand who they're playing with. If they're playing an online
mm,
game,
good point.
there are some dangerous shit going on online games. Make sure that their friends are private. They can that the game is not allowing any strangers to talk with your child. So that's also very, very important.
Yes, that's very important. So I think I mean, myself as a parent, I want to be next to, oh, one is already 15, so past the time where I know exactly what he's, but I still keep an eye on everything he plays, So now I'm playing Stalker 2 on PC. I wanted to see it first. I stayed with him. I said, okay, just play. Let me see it for 20 minutes, because you're right. The point is also, your child better than anyone else. So just watch the game. Like, let's take 15 minutes of your free time, sit next to him or her,
Yeah.
watch the game itself for 15, 20 minutes and decide. And I was like, I don't think it's a game for you, right? Because I know who you are. So.
Yeah, ask them what they're playing and what anything happened. Make sure that there's an open conversation. If anything they are experiencing have been shocking to them, make sure that they know they can talk to you about it, whether it is someone else who said something bad or something happening in the game. If you're rejecting video games because you say it's a dumb activity, your kid is not
No.
going to tell you when they felt something that was disturbing to them. So that's why it's also important to make sure you ask them what they're doing, and you look interested into their wins and losses
Yeah.
in the gaming world.
Yes, that is a whole another story. If you think that game is a waste of time, then unfortunately, we don't have time to go into it, because I'm sure that me and you, we could go on for the next 2 hours talking only about that. That's not all the other questions I have, but the time for us today is depleted. So unfortunately, I need to say goodbye here. But I wish you first, and then to everyone on this podcast or listening to this podcast, a fantastic 2025. It can only be better, especially for the video game industry, since 2024 was pretty shitty.
Yeah.
For many people, so many friends I have that now are still looking for a job. And that's like call out for everyone. If you're looking for a job, you have some problem, like, for as much as I can do, I can put people in contact, just reach out, no problem, and let's see if I can help in any way. Celia, merci beaucoup. Thank you very much for being here. It was amazing talking to you, and I'm very happy that I finally managed to do it.
Oh yeah, no, thank you for your patience, because I know sometimes it's really difficult to find the time that it's gonna work, especially since I'm traveling a lot. So thank you so much, and for anyone who wants to reach out to me, don't hesitate to do that on LinkedIn, on my website celiahodent.com, or on Blue Sky. This is where I am now.
we're gonna put it in the description and everything, so worry not, everything is going to be
don't
better
hesitate to
there.
reach out, because ethics in games is going to be a difficult endeavor, and we need everyone participating who wants to participate. So,
I mean, call me whenever you want. Thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful day and fantastic 2025. Bye bye.